Everybody. Welcome to the Schatz Tanier Show, Football Outsiders live stream for September 8th, 2022. I am Aaron Schatz, the editor-in-chief of FootballOutsiders.com, joined as always by Mike Tanier from Football Outsiders. This is our usual Thursday show. We are now in the season schedule of shows, and this is going to be our Thursday show where we will often have guests and talk about the news of the week in the NFL, and then preview the biggest games of the weekend. Before we get to that, I want to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. They're our sponsor. If you are tired of season-long fantasy football leagues, and let's be honest, you've almost run out of time to be in season-long fantasy football leagues.
Yes.
You want to try out Underdog Fantasy. It is the fastest-growing company in fantasy sports, and you can use promo code OUTSIDERS to double your deposit up to $100. Play in best ball tournaments with $10 million in total prizes, a fantasy team you don't have to manage all season long, or check out their Pick'em product for prop betting markets, even in states where traditional sports books are not yet available. The promo code again is OUTSIDERS for free deposit match up to $100 at UnderdogFantasy.com, or you can download their app from your favorite app store. Before we talk about the games this week, let's talk about the big news in the NFL, although I don't think there's a lot to say about it, and that is Les Snead and Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams getting extended through 2026. Given that these men just won a Super Bowl, I cannot think of any reason to have a problem with this contract extension whatsoever.
Right. I actually thought we were leading into the fact that Dwayne Brown is injured for the Jets. That's actually what I thought we were leading into.
Dwayne Brown might be injured for the Jets. No, that's also happening. That's happening. J.K. Dobbins may be still out for a couple of weeks for the Ravens. That's happening.
Right.
But no, I mean, I thought the big news was the contract extension.
It is big news, but you're right. It is big news. Is there a critic out there who says, Sean McVay, Snead, they haven't gotten the job done. They didn't get it done last year over the last couple of years. So obviously a great place to spend the money. And this team has been spending the money. And these guys have been doing it even recently. Was it this morning that the Rob Haverstein contract?
3-year contract extension for right tackle Rob Haverstein. Yep.
Right. We think about this as a team with like a short window that sort of bought a championship. And obviously, yes, they brought in some guys and they spent a lot of draft pick. It's part of a system, and they got a system in place, and they're going to have it in place for a while. It might collapse in a year or two, but we'll see. They've done everything they can to extend the Super Bowl window.
Also, if they bought a championship, buying a championship is good.
Yes, the championship was in the bag. They brought it home. Yeah, it's not like they bought 9 and 8.
The goal is not to be competitive every year. It's to win a championship.
Yes.
The reason why you try to be competitive every year is because that's the easiest way to put yourself in position to win a championship. But the goal is to win a championship. So if you buy a championship in 1 year, congratulations, you did it.
I think Derek likes to use the term like the resource sim. Like the NFL is not a resource sim where the goal is to always make sure you're mining your resources and bringing them in and creating this longitudinal thing. No, it's to win. It's to win. So sometimes the resource allocation might seem a little strange, but when the results are a championship and a team that's one of the favorites to win a championship this year and has at least part of their nucleus moving forward for 2 or 3 years, extend the coach, extend the general manager.
Yeah. So good job, Los Angeles Rams, quality team. Todd Singer says, no, the goal to accumulate as many draft picks as possible because stats.
Hey,
don't forget, you can comment, by the way. You can comment in our thread if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch live. The show is on all of our shows. Well, not all of our shows, but the daily. There's 1 p.m. Eastern every day. Watch on YouTube live or on Twitch, and you can comment and be in the discussion with us. Useful Title says, I don't think they've done a good job of developing their first-round picks. Note, this is a joke.
Jason Over the Cap at overthecap.com was tweeting a lot of information in the last week or so about, retention of recent draft picks and number of draft picks on rosters, number of draft picks on team rosters. A lot of fascinating data, a lot of really useful data in there. But it goes back to what Aaron says. The goal is to win. If some team hasn't retained a lot of draft picks, it might be because they traded well or had a lot of veterans, so there weren't available slots for those players. Sometimes you show me a team that has retained a lot of their draft picks, and I show you a team that's been in last place for a couple of years and still has a bad third-round pick from 3 years ago because they haven't been able to churn their roster and get better.
Right. It's like I said in the introduction for this year's Football Outsiders Almanac, which is analytics comes in a lot of different ways. And the main goal of analytics has always been to identify market inefficiencies.
Yes.
Not to identify market inefficiencies and then just keep doing those same things over and over again, even if they are no longer inefficiencies. Right. And the Rams identified that there was this market inefficiency where draft picks were actually a little bit overvalued and veterans were a little bit undervalued, and they took advantage of it. Yep.
Like the menu platter version of analytics. Analytics are these commandments and you follow them and that's the path no matter what to righteousness. No, that's the way it was a couple of years ago. The pendulums move back and forth and smart general managers adjust.
Still would like to see McVay go for it more often on fourth down, though.
There you go.
He's got the offense to do it.
Well, we always have the Chargers.
So we always have the Chargers. We'll be talking about the Chargers and the Rams as we preview the biggest games of the week. Don't forget, by the way, you can get all of Football Outsiders picks against the spread by becoming an FO Plus subscriber. Go to FO Plus, footballoutsiders.com/subscribe.
Yes.
To become an FO Plus subscriber. And I will tell you that our biggest bet of the week is not one of the games we'll be covering on this show.
That's right.
So if you want to get our biggest sure bet of the week, you have to go and become an FO Plus subscriber and look at the picks. Look at the premium picks.
It's our 7 million star lock of the week. And when you go and you get in there, what you'll see is there's a green, yellow, red system in terms of the level of confidence.
Right.
And the games are ranked in terms of confidence. So you can look at that and you can find out what our number one confidence game is. And if you're confident in us, we're confident in that game, that can be your play. It doesn't involve some of the marquee teams this week. So it's not one of those, but you can go in and make an informed decision. We can help you make an informed decision what you think the best plays should be this week.
I will also point out that I have finally seemed to design an over-under model that works.
I saw that.
And I have been trying to do this for years, but I've put together DVOA with pace stats and weather and gotten good results out of the over-under model. Not great results, but 52.5%. So that's reasonable.
That's reasonable.
And that's for all picks. That's not just for the best picks. That's for all picks.
Right.
So we're going to play around with it, and you'll see me tweeting about it, and you'll see me mentioning it on this show. And if it does well in the first few weeks, we'll add that to FO Plus too.
And if we can put the winners and the over-unders together and make a parlay system, that's it.
We won't
talk podcast.
The sports books love when you parlay because that's how they get a bunch of their money. Like, despite the fact that every so often there's somebody who gets one of these ridiculous 11-team parlays. Mm-hmm. Did you see the guy who had a NASCAR parlay that was like a free play at DraftKings or something? And he did like a 4-car NASCAR parlay and ended up winning like $1 million or something.
Oh my God. I did not see it. It's like the super exacta, the super trifecta, but for NASCAR.
But believe it or not, I'd never heard of any of these people, by the way.
No,
despite that, the fact is all those little itty bitty amounts that they make on the sports books make a lot of money that way. Actually, it adds up.
From me, they make a lot of money from me on that.
All right, our first game to talk about is the opener, the big opener, which is an outstanding matchup: Buffalo at the Los Angeles Rams, Super Bowl champions versus next year's Super Bowl champion, as everybody has pointed out. Like, I mean, the funny thing is, like, I'm on their bandwagon too, Bills as the favorites, but Bills as the favorites means they win in like 1 out of every 8 simulations.
Right.
So, like, it's very likely we will be wrong that the Bills are the favorites. Useful Title says we have our name cards swapped. So Ross, the producer, wants to swap those back. I can't see the name cards, but I'm actually Aaron. That's Mike. This is, if you watch the show in years past, you know that I run what are the most important games for Super Bowl odds and playoff odds as far as, what will change if a team wins or loses. This is the most important game for Super Bowl odds. Although it may surprise you, what is the second most important game for Super Bowl odds?
It surprised me. I just looked at the document and I'm surprised.
Yeah. Green Bay, Minnesota is the number 2 most important game for Super Bowl odds, which I thought is kind of interesting.
Now I'll say this. I can look at that and I can see why a Packers loss is a division loss, is a conference loss, is a potential, all these things in terms of tiebreakers that could happen to the Packers if they lose to the Vikings, in addition to it being suggesting that, holy cow, the Packers aren't that good.
Right. And remember, our projections have the Vikings only a little itty bit below the Packers.
Right.
So a Vikings loss does all the exact same things for the Vikings.
Right. I think in my mind, a Vikings win means I should take the Vikings seriously. And maybe, I don't know if that's built into the system as well, but it's different for this game because I look at this and say it's out of conference and things like that. Win or lose, this isn't going to have a huge tiebreaker impact for either.
No, it doesn't have a huge tiebreaker impact. It's just that these are 2 of the teams with the strongest chance of going to the Super Bowl. So every win and loss matters. If they win, Buffalo's odds of going to the Super Bowl are 26%. If they lose, it's 18.
Okay.
And if the Rams win, it's 17. And if they lose, it's 11.
Wow. You really see the difference between the NFC and the AFC there, too, just from what you told me.
I mean, the Bills are not only our best team, but, I mean, here's the thing. I talked about this in the projections. We don't actually have the best AFC teams ahead of the best NFC teams.
Right.
It's just that the NFC teams have all these teams NFC has all these teams that suck.
Right, right.
And the AFC doesn't have those. It's that the AFC is like every division in our projections, at least, except for the South, every division either comes out all good, like the West, or like, the Jets might be spunky. And the Browns will get Deshaun Watson back for the last 6 weeks. And the Steelers should have a good defense. And there's nobody like the Giants and the Panthers and the Falcons and the Seahawks and the Bears, who are all at the bottom of the NFC. Those teams don't exist in the AFC this year if our numbers are accurate, which of course they never are because they represent the mean of a range of possibilities. And there will be really bad AFC teams. We just don't know which teams they are yet. And I definitely believe there will be more really bad NFC teams than AFC teams. That's what makes the AFC harder. It's not the good NFC teams are really good. It's just that if you're in the NFC, you also get to pick on those losers.
We need a sound clip that we can play of you saying the Jets might be spunky. We need that as sort of the default for our intro to the show or something like that. But no, you're absolutely right. And whenever we're trying to do just on the radio or anything, well, what are your picks? The NFC, I know you grab the Eagles, but generally you're picking 3 teams, or you're saying, well, this is the surprise pick if these things happen. AFC, you either pick Bills as chalk, but then you've got this panoply of possible teams to choose from. And that, again, should hurt the Bills' chances moving forward because there's too many ways that they could get knocked out of that.
But it doesn't because the Bills are the best projected team. They're the only team that's projected in the top 5 in all 3 phases of the game. The question about this game is life without Tre'Davious White.
Yes.
It's interesting because the flip is also true in that the Rams have no Van Jefferson.
Right.
But
that's different.
Losing your 3rd receiver is a much easier thing to overcome than losing your 1st cornerback. Because it's all right, yeah, so they're going to have to use some of Ben Skowronek or maybe the invisible Tutu Atwell. Invisible because he only weighs 6 pounds. And so if he turns sideways, you can't see him. But also invisible because he didn't play at all as a rookie. Right. But the bigger question is who covers Kupp? I mean, let's assume Robinson is good, is not what he was last year. Who covers Robinson and who covers Kupp?
That also dovetails. We had a question of the day about Kupp, did we not?
Yes, question of the day. I completely forgot. I need to get back in the question of the day mindset. The question of the day is Cooper Kupp and how many receiving yards does he have this year?
Yes.
A, over 1,800. B, 1,600 to 1,800. C, 1,400 to 1,600. And D, under 1,400. Now, remember, Cooper Kupp had 1,950 receiving yards last year, but he had never had above 1,200 in a season before.
It's such a high number. When we're way up in the stratosphere, like for A and even B, repeating that is so rare in the NFL. Again, you'd have to scale it because it was 16 games. But we're talking about 100 and how many targets was it? 191 targets last year. And I feel like if everything is going well and we do see Jefferson soon and Allen Robinson is what we think he is and OBJ appears, etc., we're just not going to see 191 targets, especially when a lot of opponents are going to be taking Cooper Kupp out. That said, it does speak to this game. We have somebody who is a 12, 13 target per game weapon here for the Rams, and I don't see an obvious solution for the Bills besides get in the shootout and outscore them or get the sacks before Stafford can get rid of the ball.
I mean, especially if Kupp is in the slot, I would think Taron Johnson is going to be covering him. And that's a good nickelback, but he's not Cooper Kupp's equivalent.
No.
Right?
No.
Whereas the Rams, if you've got a top slot receiver, the Rams will put Jalen Ramsey in the slot and shut you down. The Bills don't have that guy right now.
Right. They don't have any of the guys out there right now. It's a lot of talent, but it's not somebody to say, yeah, we can move this person around. This can shadow a number one. That person doesn't exist. And they're going to keep Kupp in the slot a lot. I think one of the guys we might see is this young man, McCutcheon, who had a really good preseason. And I think he's going to be active tonight. And he's somebody who can be on the outside. You can put him on one outside. You can put Robinson on the other outside. You can put Kupp in the slot. It doesn't have to be Tutu Atwell, 5'6", trying to run the outside route. So, I don't know. Useful title went with D.
A return to Kupp's mean season is what he suggests. Kubiak, I will point out, has 1,550. So Kubiak goes with C.
I'm comfortable in C. That's the range of a wide receiver one on a good team that's not having a career season, and that feels right for Kupp.
I will say, thinking about the receiving, Skowronek had minus 18.7 DVOA last year, and that's a small sample size. But in last year's Rams offense, it's kind of tough to be that bad. That's like the Aaron Moorhead, with the only receiver to ever suck with Peyton Manning. And Atwell is unknown. The Bills were interestingly weak last year. I mean, they were absurdly good on pass defense. They were comparatively weak against tight ends and running backs in the passing game, except, I mean, the Rams use Higbee some, but he's not like a stellar tight end, and they don't really pass to their running backs very much. Like we've heard over and over again, once Akers is healthy, they'll pass to him. Once Akers is healthy, they'll pass to him. But for the last couple of years, the Rams have not passed to running backs. They just don't do it.
No, it's some swing passes, it's some screens, but it's not this dynamic thing where you're trying to get like the running back open in a variety of different ways.
Stringfellow Hawk points out the Bills' defensive line will be a problem tonight. And I will point out the Bills and Rams were 2 and 3 in defensive pressure rate last year. And the Bills now have Von Miller, and the Rams now do not have Von Miller, but still have Aaron Donald. So I think there'll be a lot of pressure in this game. And there are questions about offensive line for both teams. The Rams are starting a kind of journeyman named Coleman Shelton as their right guard. And the Bills have David Quessenberry at right tackle, who was very weak for the Titans last year.
Right. Yeah, we could see a lot of pass rush. I was trying to look at the over-under of this game. I had it in my head that like the Thursday night opener might be a low-scoring game. It turns out that Thursday night openers have gone over in 7 of the last 10 seasons. So 7 of the last 10 seasons has been a relative shootout. I was thinking of that Falcons-Eagles game. That's probably what was in my head a couple of years ago when Nick Foles got the start. But I feel comfortable saying this game could very well go over despite that, because I think there's going to be a lot of passing opportunities, particularly for Kupp.
The other thing I'll point out is since they started having the Super Bowl winner host the opening game, the Super Bowl winner is 10-4-3 against the spread. In that opening game.
Interesting. Yeah. Aaron's having microphone right now. Yes. Yes, Aaron, your microphone is shorting out a little bit. And he is. Absolutely. So right now, Aaron is having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry. How am I now? Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Yeah, every microphone that we buy seems to short out after a while. It is a real problem.
Weird.
What was I in the middle of saying when my microphone started to disappear?
Home teams hosting the Super Bowl. You gotten right to the win-loss record and went. Psh.
Well, we'll have to edit that. 10-4-3. So home teams, the Super Bowl champions hosting the opening game, are 10-4-3 against the spread. Since they started doing that, that includes the year that the Patriots hosted on Sunday night instead of Thursday night, because they started with Chicago Green Bay because it was the NFL's 100th anniversary.
Now, are they weather controlled out there in Los Angeles? In that, because
it's a very interesting stadium. I've actually was dealing with this year trying to figure out how to classify it. It has a roof, but the sides are open. So I don't know whether it should count as an indoor stadium or outdoors, and the evidence is sort of split.
The temperatures in Los Angeles, well, right now they're about 98, and they're going to be high for the rest of the day. But I don't know what that means on the field. I will tell you, I've been close to that roof. I was there for the Super Bowl. It's like being in a hothouse. You could grow orchids there. So I don't know who that favors. It's not like it's a December game in Buffalo or anything like that. But I guess if there's a home field advantage in extreme humidity, then it would go towards the Rams. But again, I don't know what the conditions are right at field level.
Yeah. So my feeling about this game overall is I think it's a close, great battle. But even though the Bills, I think, are the better team for this year, I feel like the line, Bills are favored by 2.5 on the road, sort of discounts home field advantage a little too much, and like what it will mean emotionally for the Rams to get, the banners and be Super Bowl champions and hosting the opening game. So I like the Rams to cover and maybe even upset the Bills in this game. I think it's too close. It's too 50-50 to be taking the Bills minus 2.5. I would take the Rams and maybe even like the Rams on the money line, because it's unlikely that the Rams cover and don't win. If they cover, they're going to win.
Yeah, you're right. The 2.5 points. I like the Rams too. I like the Bills overall in the season. I like the Rams in this matchup because of Tre'Davious White and everything you said. But you're right. I don't know if the 2.5 points are worth it when I can get a plus 120 money line. Might be a game time decision which one I do there. Plus 120 is reasonable. A little more meat on the bone there.
The over-under is 52, by the way. And the new system likes an under 52, but not by very much.
Right. That's right on the number for me, too.
Kind of stay away from the over-under. So, all right, let's start talking about Sunday games. And the best 1 p.m. game is pretty clear. And that is Pittsburgh at Cincinnati, because they are the defending AFC champions. And this is the most important game of the week for playoff odds.
Playoff odds, not Super Bowl.
Cincinnati makes the playoffs in 57% of our sims if they win, but only 31% if they lose.
Okay.
Pittsburgh makes it 52% of the time if they win, but 26% if they lose. The line is Bengals minus 6.5.
That is a lot of points to lay for the Bengals. That is a lot of points to lay. And part of it is I'm like the public here. I'm having a hard time with getting my mindset around the Bengals as a defending champion and the Steelers as the team in a rebuilding phase right now. Last 3 games. Yeah.
It's also like you numerically, if you're a Football Outsiders follower, you have to think, first of all, you have to think what the Bengals are historically is not what they are now. But also what they look like now in the playoffs was not what they were in the regular season. And there's more likely to be closer to the regular season Bengals than to be a Super Bowl quality team. But at the same time, they're likely to be better than last year because they fixed their offensive line problems. So it's complicated.
Very complicated. Now, the Bengals have won the last 3 meetings, won and covered the last 3 meetings. Before that, it was the Steelers 7 straight times. But again, this is the public mindset. This is me thinking the Steelers, the Bengals are Bengals, this big winning streak. All the things that you spoke to more recently, the Bengals team with the Joe Burrow and the Jamar Chase and things like that. And the Steelers team with the archaic Ben Roethlisberger now moving to Mitch Trubisky. I'm definitely leaning Bengals in this game. My question is, am I leaning 6.5 towards the Bengals when we know that the Steelers have this capability of keeping things close, getting sacks and turnovers, causing the sort of mayhem that can lead to a backdoor cover or an upset?
Yeah, the FO Plus picks have this as very close to the line. I think I would, if I had to put money on it, I would go with the Bengals minus 6.5. I feel a little strong. Last year, it's interesting. The Steelers were pretty good against number 1 receivers last year.
Okay.
Jamar Chase had 65 yards against them in the first game.
Aaron is once again having
my internet connection says it's at full 100%.
I can see, yeah, Aaron, you're stuttering, stammering, freezing, etc. And a lot of times your voice and your microphone are out of sync.
Talk about this game for a minute. I'll be right back.
All right. I'm here to talk about the Bengals and Steelers, but I'm here to talk about something else as well. Today is Star Trek Day, everyone, and I hope there's a lot of Trekkers out there who are excited. And if you are as excited as I am about Star Trek Day, leave a message in the comments and live long and prosper. Until then, let's go back to this game. OC Parkway says Rams plus 2.5 is the way to go. I have to agree with you 100%. You're getting a defending champion at home, a team that is at full strength, more or less, give or take a number 3 receiver. I can't go anywhere else but Rams 2.5 again, except again with the money line, and that's plus 120. And again, thank you, Todd. Live long and prosper, Todd. Boilermakers forever, except when they play Rutgers. Let's see how Aaron's doing.
Am I any better now? There's nobody else is streaming in my house, so there's no reason why I should be having internet problems.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Aaron is.
Hopefully that helps. I apologize to everybody. Hopefully we can edit this in the podcast version. The Bengals, I was talking a little bit about receivers. Bengals were 27th last year against number 2 receivers.
Okay.
I know Eli Apple played better in the playoffs, but during the regular season, there was a clear difference between Awuzie and Apple. So I would definitely go after whoever Apple's covering. And I think that could be a nice game for Chase Claypool or George Pickens.
Right. Although we don't know who it is, and that's a problem because, they're similar style of receivers in addition to everything else. You can't say, well, this is a boundary guy. He's going to get those deep opportunities. It could be either of them.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is the Steelers were so low in pressure rate on offense last year. What does that look like with this garbage offensive line they have and no Big Ben to get rid of the ball fast? The Bengals pass rush was lauded during the playoffs. It really was not that good last year. Trey Hendrickson is good, but they were only 22nd in pressure rate during the regular season. But this is an offensive line they should be able to get through.
Agreed. And I think we're going to see a similar Steelers offense to what we saw last year, getting rid of the ball quickly and, swinging the ball out and trying to get a lot of yak on that end. I feel comfortable that Trubisky is going to do what Trubisky lacks that Roethlisberger had, that incredible amount of experience and ability to make the pre-snap read and get the ball out, has been replaced by being able to throw and move. And I think that's going to be a net positive for the Steelers offense this year.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to pick it, Bengals minus 6.5. I said if I have to pick it, I'm going Bengals.
I'm taking Steelers. I'm taking Steelers and grabbing those points and going all the way to the bank with it right now. I'm excited for the Bengals overall. But I think the Steelers are a borderline playoff team right now, and that's too many points to give in this matchup.
I'll point out also the total is 44.5, and the over-under formula says that's pretty much right on the nose.
Okay. I'm going to steer clear of it, though.
Yeah. All right, Kansas City at Arizona. Let's go to the late window, 4 p.m. in Eastern time game. So this is interesting. The Chiefs originally were favored by 2.5 in this game. It's now moved to 5.5, and including in the last day, it's gone from 4 to 5.5 because of some injuries on the Arizona defense, which we already had a lot of questions about. If you've watched us do preview shows or you've heard me on any podcast, you've heard me talk about how the Cardinals defense has been shockingly good in DVOA the last couple of years. Given the personnel, it doesn't make any sense. And when you look at the personnel on this defense, you're like, how is that even possible? And my God, is this team really going to start Dennis Gardeck as one of their edge rushers?
I don't know, but J.J. Watt is one of the injuries.
Yes.
Zach Ertz is one of the injuries. And this is an example of what happens when you don't necessarily put a coherently planned team together. I don't look at the Cardinals and say, this is coherently planned to win now or rebuild or slow build or whatever. You've got a couple of veterans who, especially in Watt's case, have not been reliable recently, and you're relying on them in week one. By the way, that line is down to 6. Now it's -6 for the Chiefs. As I think.
Oh my God! Just in the time we've been doing this show, the line moved.
Yeah, and I think that's people taking a good, long, hard look at the Cardinals' overall roster and saying, "What is this?" Again, remember, there's no new Hopkins this week as well. So,
right.
Like your Madden version of the Cardinals is not the Cardinals team that's going to be out there.
Yeah, and I will also point out Arizona's defense last year, 3rd against wide receiver 1, but 26th against wide receiver 2, and 28th against other wide receivers. So for a Kansas City team that's going to, probably be spreading the ball around a lot more than they did last year, that is a plus. Like they are depending on Trayvon Mullen, who came over from the Raiders like a week and a half ago, and Marco Wilson, and Byron Murphy is the slot corner. Byron Murphy is probably the best of the corners. He's the slot corner. Yeah. I kind of feel good about their chances against Travis Kelce with Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson as the safeties. But the secondary is iffy. The edge rush is one guy. The edge rush is Marcus Golden. Like, that's it.
Yeah, 1 B+ kind of guy, maybe B kind of guy. You had me at Trayvon Mullen. Folks, if you're like, hey, we have a solution to our secondary problem, we're going to go to the Raiders and get one of the Gruden Mayock guys that Josh McDaniel doesn't want. That's not a solution. That's not a solution. I know that Mullen, was less of a bust than some of the other guys, but that's definitely a problem for you.
Yeah, and the Cardinals were 30th. I don't know how the Cardinals had such a good defensive DVOA. They were top 10. It boggles the mind. They were 30th in defensive pressure rate last year, and now they don't have Chandler Jones. And they replaced him with nobody.
Right. Well, I know Jones was really good pass rusher. Did they stop the run well? What were they doing?
I think they were stopping the run well, and they were surprisingly good against number 1 receivers. And their pressures turned into sacks at a high rate, I guess. Like, I'm not exactly sure. They blitz a lot.
I guess because they blitzed a lot. I guess my question is, how far does the spread go before I stop liking the Chiefs? I think I still like the Chiefs at -6. I will tell you earlier that I was able to see the Chiefs money line and the under, and I guess we're going to talk about your under system. Chiefs money line and under was at +165 earlier, and that was tempting. I have a feeling it's not there anymore.
My system actually likes the under on this game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I looked it up.
Under 53.5.
Right. Yeah, because I'm looking at this at potentially 24-13 or something like that, a Chiefs win, where I'm concerned about the under. And again, as we get up around a touchdown, I'm concerned about the Chiefs. But I think the Cardinals were just sort of overvalued on the books, just sitting there on the books. There was all that, Tyreek's gone in the public eye. The Chiefs are taking a step back. And now money's actually going in. Money's actually going in. So we were talking about last week, 2 weeks ago at the books, that's not there anymore because actual rubber's hitting the road. And that's why we're seeing this line get to about -6.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Vegas and the Chargers. Rematch of that awesome game from week 18 of last year, only this time nobody wants to tie. Line is Chargers -3.5. Now, here's an interesting thing. The total is 52. This is the strongest over-under in the system, under 52 on this game, which sounds surprising, but the Chargers actually played at a slow pace last year. You think of them as being really offensively powerful, but they actually played at a slow pace. So it suggests a little bit fewer points in this game. And of course, they're missing J.C. Jackson. So that's a real problem. They were 31st against wide receiver 1 last year. And J.C. Jackson was supposed to be the solution to that problem. And I don't know if you know anything about the current Las Vegas Raiders roster, but they have a pretty good wide receiver 1 now.
That they have. They put a pretty good wide receiver 1, pretty good wide receiver 1.5 or 1.3 or whatever you want to call Hunter Renfrow. That is going to be a problem for the Chargers, but you got me interested in that under now because I hadn't noticed the Chiefs' slow pace. The Raiders look like a team that's going to play at a more deliberate pace this year as well, especially what we've seen in the preseason, which was a lot of Josh McDaniels putting a fullback on the field and also using a lot of 12 personnel and doing a lot of toss crack and looking like the Mac Jones Patriots or the Jimmy Garoppolo Patriots or whatever you want to call the or Brady has gotten kind of old Patriots that he ran in the past. These are two teams that could, despite the shootout last year, be very methodical going up and down the field.
Right. They went under the number in the first game last year. When these teams played the first time last year, the number was 52 and they went under. So it's not like they blew away the number both times. Grouchus asks, is the Chargers defense good enough to stop the Raiders for the under, or will there be many garbage time touchdowns? Our defensive projection for the Chargers is phenomenally good this year. Well, okay, that's overstating it. It's pretty good. It's like top 5, but of course the defensive projections are more condensed. So top 5 projection doesn't actually mean you'll end up in the top 5.
Right.
But I mean, they added, the Chargers added a Mac. The Chargers added Sebastian Day, Joseph Day. They added, obviously they don't have J.C. Jackson for this game, but they added J.C. Jackson in general. So that helps their general defensive projection, although, not for this game. Full year of hopefully of Derwin James and Samuel with more experience, and Joey Bosa is there. And our projection for the Chargers defense is pretty good.
Yeah, and so much of when I would watch that run defense last year, it really looked like there were lapses, like things that could be corrected by coaching and just stunning lapses. And a good example was in that week 18 game. I'm pretty sure there was a 3rd and 20 draw play conversion by Brandon Jacobs. Yes. And whenever that happens, it's almost like, I'm not going to say it's unrepeatable, but it's like this foobar at about 15 different levels that happens. And, you solve that a little bit with Joseph Day out there instead of Tillery, although who knows, 3rd and 20, maybe you've got your pass rush guys out there. You solve those kind of things schematically, and you solve those kind of things just by not having fundamental breakdowns. And those are some of the things I think the Chargers can count on this year.
Yeah, it's also, by the way, the Raiders, they're going to run, I think, a good amount.
Yeah.
And they're also going to frustrate the hell out of fantasy owners by constantly pinging between all their running backs.
Agreed.
Josh Jacobs is not going to be the clear starter. All indications are there's going to use plenty of Brandon Bolden and Amir Abdullah Amir Abdullah playing the old James White role, and then Zamir White, the rookie.
Yeah.
So just fantasy players, be aware there's going to be a lot of frustrations.
Yeah, Amir Abdullah will play until he fumbles. And then so midway through the first quarter, and then we'll see some more of Zamir White and some Brandon Bolden in there. It's
interesting. I really like the Chargers this year. And in fact, the numbers like the Chargers as the favorite in the division. I like the Chargers as the favorite in the division. But I would not be shocked if Vegas won this game. Like, J.C. Jackson is a really big piece to be missing when you have to play against Devontae Adams.
Yeah, that's big. And you have to lay 3.5 points to take the Chargers.
Yeah.
And that feels like a lot against an opponent that has made significant upgrades and, did play them to the wall and take a win in week 18, et cetera. I don't have a good feeling about this game, but if I absolutely had to, I would skip it.
Yeah, I would go under 52. The system likes the under 52. Now watch me like introduce this new system, and then they go out and this game is 41-38. But
there's a world where that can happen. Both defenses can be weaker than advertised. Turns into a passing shootout. Could also see that, but I like the under right now. I don't like 3.5. Give me down to give me the field goal, and then I might be a Chargers fan.
Yeah. Green Bay at Minnesota. The game between two teams with lots of new defensive pieces, and the Packers trying to figure out who on earth Aaron Rodgers is throwing to this year. Is Romeo Doubs going to really be like the greatest thing since sliced bread? Because my feeling is no. Like usually the hype on lower round wide receivers turns out to be nothing.
99 times out of 100.
Your Marcus Colstons are few and far between.
Yes. Yeah, and he came kind of from nowhere that season long ago. Alan Lazard is on the injury list also. So when you talk about who is he going to throw to, now it is week 1, which means Sammy Watkins is healthy because it's week 1 and only week 1. But yeah, I'm actually trying to look for some props here. And right off the bat, I'm looking at props and there's nobody listed for the Packers.
Now, who wants to bet on Christian Watson over under 30 yards or something?
What a prop to bet. I mean, I would probably take over on that because the ball is going.
Rodgers has to throw to somebody.
Rodgers has to throw to somebody, and it would be Watkins or Rodgers. But I think that tells you what Vegas thinks of these of this receiving core right now.
So I am really interested. This is the game I'm going to watch at 4:00.
Okay.
Because I am really interested to see Kevin Connell running the Vikings offense against this Packers defense that we've talked a lot about this offseason. Yeah. Film people are very high on this.
Yes.
And the stats do not like this. The Packers have not had an above average defense in years.
Right.
The idea that they're by getting a couple of rookies and getting Jair Alexander back from injury, that they're suddenly going to become a top 5 defense seems absurd to me, but with defenses are so inconsistent, it's certainly possible. But I would also watch for the colossal career year regression from Rasul Douglas. I mean, we don't, it's not as easy to measure as career year regression from a wide receiver or a running back. But right. My God, did Rasul Douglas have a career year last year that was completely out of line with anything he had ever done before?
That's exactly it. And he either suddenly became a totally different player than who we watched in Philly here in year 6 of his career. And Devondre Campbell also had that massive leap forward season. And, Preston Smith has this sort of rebound renaissance-y type season. It's a lot. And I saw what the film people saw. But when I look at the stats and I look at the reputations, like the well-earned reputations of these players, it doesn't add up to me for the Green Bay Packers. So I'm generally down on the Green Bay Packers. And I will also mention last 3 meetings between these teams, we have 2 outright victories by the Vikings. And we also had one Week 17 Sean Mannion, Kellen Mond massacre where the Packers were trying to get their playoff seedings and just steamrolled them last year. But this tends to be a pretty tight matchup here, and the Vikings have gotten the better of it recently.
The line is low. It's in Minnesota. The Packers are only favored by 1.5.
Yeah.
The house knows.
The house knows. We can talk about Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson and everything. The house knows. The house knows that this is a close matchup and that it's been close recently.
Groucho says the problem with the Packers defense is depth, and particularly at edge rusher. And it is true that they do not have a lot of depth, particularly at edge rusher. I mean, the depth is on the defensive line where Devontae Wyatt is apparently not a starter. But otherwise, right now, here are their backup edge rushers. 2020 7th-round pick Jonathan Garvin, rookie 5th-round pick Kingsley Enagbare,
okay,
and some guy named Tipa Galay.
No idea. And normally, I was about to say, very few teams have depth at edge rusher. Yeah, that's the Bills. The Bills have depth at edge rusher.
The Bills have lots of depth at edge rusher. Yeah.
Right, or the Buccaneers had it and they've been sort of like now using it as they move forward. But that's extremely bad, weak depth, what you just described, Aaron.
Right. Like when we think of the Patriots here, just to get local, we think of the Patriots as not having a great edge rush. Mm-hmm. But I'd rather have Josh Uche than any of those other backups I just mentioned.
Right.
So yeah, and the other problem with the Packers defense is I mean, the biggest problem is we just haven't seen the results. Like, if you look at the talent of the starters, like forget about the depth and just look at the starters. If Rasul Douglas does what he did last year, you see it. You do see the top 5 idea. Yeah. It's just this combination of players, without the rookies, has never done it. They've never been a top. Not when Alexander was healthy, not last year when Alexander was hurt. They've just never been a top 10 defense.
Right. And I wonder how much the reputation, I was looking back at it against the Bears, against the Lions. I know we adjust for that in DVOA and we adjust and it doesn't look as good. Yeah, they faced Washington last year. They faced somebody with like they faced the Seahawks. I think during the Geno era, I think they got the Seahawks. So yeah, let's see it in week 1 against a fully functional Vikings offense with Kirk Cousins. Whatever you feel about him, it's complete functionality.
Yeah,
it works properly. And let's see who these Packers really.
And Alexander against Jefferson. That is a great match.
That'll be fun. That will be.
It should just have an isolated camera on those two guys. I know that's not how they broadcast games, but it would be fun.
Wait 2 years. That'll be on Amazon.
So are we both on Vikings plus 1.5?
Yeah, we're on Vikings plus 1.5. I'm loath to pick the Vikings, but I'm going to pick the Vikings.
And also the total is 47, and the system likes an over on the total. Probably because we're not as high on the Packers defense as everyone else.
Right. I'm steering away from the over/under in that game. Although it's tricky because there's always the Packers run away and then the late backdoor cover option, which the Vikings used to have in the past. But I'm still steering clear.
Final game to talk about is Sunday night. No, Jalen Reagor is not going to push the Vikings over the top. I don't think so.
Look, if I've said this once, I've said it 100 times. This podcast is a no Jalen Reagor show. And do not come on and explain what the special teams coach thinks of Jalen Reagor. Yes, I saw the quotes. I saw the creepy quotes from the special teams coach. Special teams coach thinks that Jalen Reagor is the most beautiful specimen of manhood this side of Michelangelo's David until he feels a punt like he's Michelangelo's David, and that's all we're going to hear about that from then on. So moving on. All
right. Tampa Bay at Dallas, Sunday night. Wasn't it Sunday night opener last year? It was the same game, I think.
Was it?
No, that was the Thursday. It was the Thursday night opener last year. It was Dallas at Tampa Bay.
Wow.
Now the Sunday night game is Tampa Bay at Dallas. The line is Tampa Bay minus 2.5. These are what?
Yeah. Aaron is once again having microphone issues, and we're trying to work on that. We're coming into talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Now, it's not the microphone, it's the internet. But my internet seems to be fine.
Yeah, you are stuttering in and out, man. You're stuttering in and out. Usually when you get a fix, it works for about 5-10 minutes, and then it kind of gets goofy. So I don't know if the fix you did it the last couple times, if you can do it again, it could probably get us through the show.
How am I now?
Better.
So strange. There's nothing wrong. My internet says it's at full capacity, so I don't understand what's going on.
Right.
I was saying these are two of the top teams in defensive pressure rate last year. The Dallas defense is not going to be as good. They're not going to have as many takeaways as last year, but they still should be pretty good. The offense is a lot of question marks, right? Tyron Smith's injury, no Michael Gallup. The other problem is Dallas is on defense. The kind of weakness of their defense, I think, is the depth at cornerback. And Tampa, if Godwin plays in particular, Tampa is a very deep receiving core. If Julio Jones does have something left, there'll be a lot of Russell Gage and Julio Jones in this game, I think.
And a lot of this game, I think, is going to come down to which offensive line full of injuries buckles first. Will it be the interior offensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or will it be the exterior offensive line of the Dallas Cowboys? And we don't know if Jason Peters is walking right in and starting. Jason Peters' history suggests he's not at full peak, absolute top conditioning right now. That's not normally a thing that you associate with Jason Peters walking in off the street. So we may be seeing Tyler Smith right off the bat. And if that's the case, I am already looking at what the what Todd Bowles can throw at you on defense and leaning towards those Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You have props for this one. These are game of the week props, yes?
We have props. We have a couple of them here. One of them, and I'm going to do the less exciting one first. CeeDee Lamb over 5.5 receptions. Now, again, I don't know who else is going to be catching passes for the Dallas Cowboys besides CeeDee Lamb. 5.5 is low. It's minus 160. It's minus 160, but I feel like there's value there that even if they're just trying to get the, like if the Dallas Cowboys offense craters and they're just trying to get things going, that's going to mean swing passes, bubble screens, things like that to CeeDee Lamb. And I definitely want to go over that 5.5 for CeeDee.
Although minus 160 is terrible odds.
It's terrible. It's terrible, but a lot of the props were like that for this game, where it's like, here's something you really want to play, and then the action is low. Here's one, and this is, I like to call it the stay awake. If this was a Monday night game, I have a hard time staying awake for Monday night games. I have to stay awake on Sunday because I got to write on Monday, but I have a hard time on Monday. Here's the on Monday nights. Here's the stay awake bet. Tom Brady and Dak Prescott combined 700 plus passing yards and 7+ passing TDs. So both quarterbacks 707, it should be over 707, but you get it at plus 2,000.
Oh, I like that. Plus 2,000, I'll take some. Yes, at plus 2,000, I will take that. Yes.
Yeah, you drop $10 on it, and then late in the game, if it's screwed up one way, or if it's a shootout, you're like excited. If it's one way or the other, you got all the backdoor action and things like that, and you're rooting for mayhem at the end of the night. Walk away on a $10 bet.
If you didn't get it, well, was it $10?
It was $10. If you get it, $200.
Yeah,
you get a week of 2 weeks of bad betting afterwards for free.
Bill Monty says that one's a no for me until you said plus 2,000.
Yeah, definitely will keep you up. Definitely keep you interested, even if the game gets weird.
Yes. Who would you take on the line? Tampa Bay minus 2.5.
The line's been moving. The line has been moving. I want to check it. It was down to -3 for Tampa Bay a couple of moments ago. And
I had 2.5 when I checked.
You had 2.5.
Before the show.
I'm still at 2.5. Earlier in the week, it was at 1.5, and I just wanted to jump on the Buccaneers, the Brady's, and love them and hug them and kiss them. 2.5 is a little trickier, but I think I'm going to stick with the Buccaneers -2.5. Money line's down to -140 though. I wouldn't go with the money line. I would go -2.5.
I think I would take the Bucs. I think I would take the Bucs -2.5 here. Also, I'm worried about the Gallup. I'm really worried about, even though we tried to account for it in the projections, Aaron Smith injury, historically they've been a completely different team without him.
That's exactly it. And you're right. We're going from Tyron Smith to Tyler Smith, maybe not Jason Peters in week 1. It's a heck of a thing to try to price in. And I think the public's seeing that. I won't be surprised. This might be -3.5 by Sunday afternoon, or maybe up to -4. I would not be surprised.
I think I would go with the Cowboys if it got that big.
At around 4, I start getting a little.
If it went over 3, I would switch and go Cowboys.
Yeah, that's where I get nervous too.
It's so good. It's been so good to be able to talk about real games, even if I had technical problems.
Yeah.
And I apologize to everybody, but this has not been how many of these shows have we done over the last few months? And this has been a problem twice, but never otherwise. So I
have no
assume that this is random.
Yeah.
But I apologize to everyone. Hopefully we can edit that stuff in the podcast version. Real football tonight.
I'm gonna do the outro here because you are still glitching a little bit. And Aaron has been apologizing profusely for not being able to be heard. But he has been unable to be heard. I am going to throw one more piece of gambling advice with you. Every week, I'm going to be putting my play out there. And we don't have a name for it yet, but it is my play. Here is my play. Now, all you guys know, I love making fun of the Patriots. I love making fun of Matt Patricia. And that's the offseason. And then the season starts, and I see the Patriots with 3.5. And against the Tua Tagovailoa experience. So I'm seeing the Patriots getting points against Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. I took the Patriots plus 3.5 and the under in a parlay, and I got plus 265. So hopefully we'll be keeping track of this every week. So my play right now is the Patriots in the spread and the under at plus 265. Check back next week. We'll see how we did. But until then, on behalf of Aaron and on behalf of Football Outsiders, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking us. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget tonight, if you want to see Aaron and I with no technical difficulties because it's on Discord, chatting on Discord with all of the Football Outsiders readers, including you, join our Discord channel. It's very easy to do. It's Football Outsiders. You got to make an account. It's free. It's easy. They don't hit you with spam. Apparently, they tell the world when you're playing Civ 6, but you can turn that off, etc. Join us tonight. We'll be there. Also, come to footballoutsiders.com. Brian Knowles will be live blogging, and he'll be reminding you to take breaks from his live blog to come onto the Discord as well. So do all those things. Come out and hang out with us tonight. Don't forget to play Underdog Fantasy. They've got a promo. If you use the promo code Outsiders, you're going to get a match for your deposit. Great place to play a variety of different games, including a new Battle Royale game that they have that you'll definitely want to check out. So do all that stuff. On behalf of Aaron, who is now a silent Bob of the podcast. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you and we'll hear you too next week.